the operators, starting with the arithmetic operators. So these are the arithmetic operators that you already have learned, most of them, not the exponential and unary operators like negation. Then there are like two types of division, like just one division and double division. Double division returns the quotient. And there is another operation is like modulus. If you use the percentage sign, modulus, it will give you the remainder. Like if you're dividing 5 by 2, the remainder is 1, right? You will get the remainder by using the modulus sign. And for the quotient, like the double like division sign, if you put that double division sign, you will get the quotient. For the division, you will get 2.5, just the floating number. Like 5 divided by 2 is like 2.5. So for just one division is like 2.5. Two division is like just the quotient. The modulus is giving you the remainder, the 1. Okay. I already have given you some instruction how you can write the shorthand for the increment and decrement, but this is not necessary to write the shorthand in this project. But later on, we'll investigate whenever we will working with loops and other concept, then we'll use those shorthand. But you need to know what are the shorthands. For example, if I'm writing a val is equal val plus 10, you can write val plus equal 10. This is how we can write a shorthand. The same thing for the negative. If it is a negative, you can write a negative. If it is like a multiplication, you can write a multiplication. That means whatever the value in the val, probably the value of the val is like 10, then it is multiplying with 10. What's the value? 10 multiplied 10 is 100, and the 100 is assigned to the reassigned to that variable again, like reassignment. So here's the assignment and here's the reassignment. We're not using a different variable. We're using the same variable, but with reassignment. Okay. And here's the preceding rules. If there is like multiple operators, then you need to use this formula, PEMDAS. Using the PEMDAS, parentheses come first, then exponential, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Those are the precedings. Now the Boolean operator. So again, Boolean is like true or false. That means if you are using this operator like, so for the arithmetic operator, if you're using 10 plus 10, it will return maybe 20. If it is 10 plus 30, it will return 40, right? Like a different numbers. Whenever you're using arithmetic operators, it will return different numbers. But in a Boolean operator, it always returns true or false. That's the difference between arithmetic operator and the Boolean operator. So whenever you're using any Boolean operator, it returns either true or false. So there are basically two types of Boolean operators. One is connective operator, another is comparison operator. What is the connective? The connecting operator is there are like various connecting operator, but we'll be using here only 3: and, or, and not. What is the and or not? Basically, these are binary operators. Like connecting operators that can be used in binary. What is the binary? 1 and 0, right? What is the combination of 1 and 0? It could be 0, 0. It could be 0, 1. It could be 1, 0. It could be 1, 1, right? Like 4 combinations. Now, let's try with the AND. 0 and 0 is 0. 0 and 1 is 1. 1 and 0 is 1. So in the AND operator, if both are AND, like both are 1, only it returns 1. Those are 0. So the shortcut is whenever you're using an AND operator, when both are 1, only then it will return 1, otherwise 0. For the OR, it's the reverse. For the OR, if any one is 1, then it returns 1. That means whenever it's 0, 0, it is 0. When both are 0, then the OR operator returns 0, otherwise 1. So the shortcut is when both are 1, the AND operator returns 1. When any of them is 1, the OR operator returns 1. Make sense? And NOT is very simple, just negation. If it is 1, then it will return 0. Like it's an unary operator, just like our negation. If it is 1, it returns 0. If it is 0, it returns 1. Okay? That means in the OR operator and AND operator, it always returns binary values, either 0 or 1. That means it is a Boolean operator, right? Then the second type of Boolean operators are comparison operator. We'll be using comparison operator later in the string or other data structure, but at least you need to know what is the comparison operator. So one equal sign is an assignment operator, and double equal sign is comparison operator. Comparison means like we are comparing those two values. We are comparing maybe 10 with 10. If they are equal, that means this is actually equality operator. Equal sign. If both are equal, it returns true. If it is not, it returns false. Like if I'm reading 10 equal 20, it will return false. But one equal sign is just like assignment operator. Like if I'm reading val equal 10, that means we're assigning 10 to the val variable. Right? So they're slightly different, like equal and one equal sign. Equal is comparison operator, and one equal sign is the assignment operator. Okay? And they are comparison operator. Well, this is the equality operator. The non-equality operator is not, is the not equal. Like if I'm doing 10 is not equal 20, it is, it will return true. If I'm doing 10 not equal 10, it will return false. Like the reverse logic. That means 10 equal 10 is true. 10 not equal 10 is false. The same thing for the greater than, less than, greater than equal, less than equal. So 10 is greater than 20. It is not. It will return false. If I'm reading 20 is greater than 20, still it is not true. It's because it is equal, not greater than. If I'm reading 20 is greater than equal 20, it is true. That means the second part is true. Greater than is not true, but there's like another one, greater than equal. For the second part, it is true. That means overall it is true. If it is 30 is greater than equal 20, it is true. If 50 is greater than 100, it is not. The same thing for the is less than operator. So if 10 is less than 20, it is true. If 20 is less than 10, it is not. If 20 is less than equal 20, what will happen? True or false? 20 is less than equal 20. It is true. Like the second part is true. Is less than equal. So less than is not true, but equal is true. That's how it is true. Okay? So that's why they are called like comparison operators. So comparison operator and connecting operator always return a true or a false, either 0 or 1. True means 1, false means 0. In electrical engineering, true means on or 1 means on. Like if there is a circuit, when we turn on the light, it's like a 1 to the binary digit. If it is off, then it is 0. Okay. Again, equal and equal are not the same. Equal is assignment operator. Equal is comparison operator. If I'm asking you this question in the exam, like equal is a comparison operator, or maybe I'm writing, what is the answer of 10 equal 10? Answer option A is true. Option B is false. Option C is assignment. Option 4D is like none of them. What is the correct answer? None. None of them? It's the assignment operator actually. Like we're using 10 equal 10.
But you can't have 10 be a variable.
It's not a variable, but it's a tricky part. But yeah, you're right.
Wouldn't that just be an error?
Yeah,
So
it can be an error, but I'm not sure if it is an error. Let me try. I haven't tried it. So 10 equal 10, right?
Try and make 10 a variable?
No, I'm not using 10 as a variable. Let's try to run it. Yeah, there's an error. Yeah, you're right. So none of them is the right answer. But yeah, if it is not a 10 or just like a variable, then probably you can use. So whenever you're finding it equal, it's like an assignment operator. But I'm just giving you some hint here, like equal and equal are not same. So probably you'll see, well, it's an equal sign, so it should be true. But no, it is not. It's the wrong answer. But D is the right answer, none of them. You have a syntactical error. It's because 10 is not a variable. You cannot assign a number to a number. Right? Okay. So here's the expression. 5 is less than 4 and 1 is greater than 0. How it works? The first part, 5 is less than 4. True or false? False, right? That means 0. Then 1 is greater than 0. True. So false and true is false or true? False. So whenever there is both true, then AND operator will return true. When any of them is false, it returns false for the AND case. But the OR case, it's the different. 7 and 3, true, right? 7 is greater than 3. 10 is less than 4, false. So true or false is true. Like in the OR operator, if any of them is true, it returns true. This is how it works. So basically the computer system or the CPU, what process actually, I'm writing here like 10 is less than 4 and 10 is greater than 4 and or maybe or whatever it is. 5 is greater than 4, maybe a long expression. So the computer starts from here. 10 is less than 4. True or false? False, right? Then AND. Now, I don't need to calculate the whole thing here. That's because I know there's a false here. So whatever it comes, either true or false, I don't care. It will return false. That means I don't need to calculate the whole thing. So this is how computer works. Start from here. If it finds false and AND, then it doesn't calculate the rest. If it is true or false, I don't care. It returns false. The same thing for the OR operator. If it is an OR and I have a true here, then I don't need to calculate the rest. If it is true or false, I don't need to know. I have a true here, so it returns true, regardless of true or false here. Does that make sense? So whenever you are evaluating those things by yourself in paper and pencil, you can follow this way, right? Well, if I have a true and OR, I don't need to worry about anything. It's a true. If it's a false and I don't need to calculate the rest. It is false. Make sense? Okay. And there is another type of operator is like identity operator. Identity operator is like is. So the difference, so basically equal and is operator are somehow similar. Whenever you are checking the value, like if a variable is assigned with 10, you're checking the val is equal 10, it returns true. The val is 10, it is true. But the difference between equal and is equal only checks for the value. But the is not only checks the value, it also checks the data type. So for example, I have a list here, though we haven't covered list. For example, list has one value 2. And then I have a variable val is 2. So val and L1 can be same. That's because they are the same value using the equal sign. But if you're writing val is L1, it is not true. That's because val is an integer value and L1 is a list, a different type of data. Yes.
The fact that comparison checks
Only the value.
only the value, would that mean you can compare a string that's given as input to an actual number?
So string like string 2 and 2 are not the same value.
Because of the.
Yeah, because of the quotation. Okay. Now come to the expression and statement. Expression can be facial, but not here. We have like written expression, like our Python expression. Expression can be a combination of operands and operators. What is the operand? And what is the operator? We already discussed the operators, right? Can be arithmetic operator, can be Boolean operator, can be other types of operator. Operands are variables, right? So whenever we're writing a combination of operators and operand, it is a state, it is this expression. And the purpose of this expression is it produces some value or result after being interpreted. That means if I'm writing this, can you see from the back on the left side? I'm just writing on the very left side. Can you? Okay. Let me know if you can see here. If I'm writing here like val plus, not the val, 10 plus 5 minus 3 multiply 10. How it works? This one first, 30 minus 5 plus 10. So addition first, 15 minus 30 is negative 15, right? That means this is the expression. Why? It is the combination of operand and operators. Operators, operators, these are operands. And finally, it produces a value. If it can produce a value, only then we can say it is the expression. Like this is our expression. These are the expression. It produced some value. What value? True or false? 1 or 0. Now, what's the statement? Statement is not evaluated for some result, is used to creating variables or for displaying values. So creating variables, I'm writing val equal 10. This is a statement. If I'm writing
Not equal, right? Just equal.
yeah, equal. You're right. It's equal. So if I'm writing val equal 10 plus 5 minus 3 multiplied 10, then it is a statement. It is not the expression. We're assigning something to the val. Though it is producing something, but we are using this val as an assignment operator. This is a statement. So these are the examples. If I'm writing x equal 5, that means it's a statement. We're assigning something. In expression, we're assigning and we're doing some evaluation. I'm sorry, this can be an expression. This is not a statement. This is also an expression. It's because we're producing something and then assignment.
So it's both?
Is both. But for the statement, it is not producing anything, just for the variable declaration or display purposes. Since we're doing some protection, we're creating something, we're producing something, that's why it's an expression. Though it has an assignment operator. It is not only assigning, it is assigning with creating something. Yes.
So it's still a statement and an expression or just one?
So expression handles the statement. Any question about the difference between expression and statement? So whenever you're seeing something like, well, we're not doing anything here, just the assignment, creating the variable, then it's a statement. In the other way, in the other case, we're doing something. We have our value here previously, 25. So 25 plus 10 is 35. We're producing something, though we're assigning something, but since we're producing, that's why it's an expression. Okay. Probably you'll see this type of question in the exam. I'll give you some expression and assignment, expression and statement, and ask you whether it's a statement or expression. Now, if you are using this on your code, so first you are getting the unit number from the user, right? It could be any number like 1000. You're assigning 1000 to a variable like units. What it is? Statement, right? Now, with that unit, you are creating top share or maybe mirror share. So this is mirror share. I'm just doing here like 20 minus 2 multiplied 3, definitely subtracted from 1000, then multiply with 0.13. What it is? It's an expression, right? We're producing something here and then we're assigning. But for the first one, we're just assigning. So this is a statement and this is the expression. You already have used those things in your project, or probably you'll be using, but you need to know what is expression versus statement. Okay. Any question? No? Okay. One important thing is like indentation. Right now, we're not using indentation anymore as because we're not creating any block. Whenever we're creating some blocks, we'll be using indentation. So in the later weeks, probably when we have the if and loop and other things, then we'll be using indentation. Indentation is like whenever we're creating a block, like here's a block of calculating mirror share. I'm writing a block of code that can only generate the mirror share. Okay, then what I can do, I can put those code 4 space apart from the main line, like a tab or 4 space, either one. When you use the tab button, it will go to the 4 space back here, or you can use the 4 spaces. And this is basically called the indentation. That means this code is under that particular block. Whenever you're using indentation, that means these codes are under this particular block. And make sure whenever you're creating a block, you start with a colon sign. The next week we'll be using if statement. We need to use the if, then the colon sign. That means we are writing a if block. That means maybe this is our ruler. So if is the very first character, I is the very first character. Whenever you are using the block code for the if, you need to use the 4 space and then writing the code here. Yes.
Is that an actual rule or is it more a?
This is basically the syntax in Python. So in other programming languages, we're using curly braces. Since we don't have any curly braces, then we're using indentation.
Not just a convention.
Yeah. So make sure they are under the if block. If you're not using the indentation, that means it is not under the if block. Okay, but we'll be discussing those things next class whenever we'll discuss in the if. Okay. Oh, we are how many? 30 minutes away from the first class. Okay. Again, for the second class, like today's class, the learning objectives are we will be discussing the strings a little bit, as because we have a separate module for the strings on the week 4. but since you need to work with the string in this project, I'll be discussing string very quickly and string interpolation, how you can use the string to print something, to print to the terminal, how you can use the f string in string interpolation, if string. I'll be discussing those things. And we'll be discussing the exception handling a little bit. And finally, we'll be discussing the debugging. Okay. Let me go through here string first. So in Python, string literally is a sequence of characters that you already have told in the very first class. It can be represented like empty string can be represented as one single quote or double single quote, but make sure they are beginning quote and ending quote. You need to start either single quote, ending and beginning same, and double quote, the same ending and beginning. You cannot write single quote as a starting, double quote as the ending. It is not the syntax in Python. You need to use either way, either single quote or double quote for the ending and starting code. Okay, so let me not writing code right now. I would like to discuss some of the escape character. Probably you need to write Mira share, right? You need to print Mira's share, right? Have you tried it? If you use apostrophe s, or maybe I'm writing single quote or the double quote. Now single quote here, then again single quote. Though it's an apostrophe s, but Python treats this character as a single quote, starting single quote, ending single quote. It will print only Mira, not the rest. And then again you will find another single quote. This is syntactical error. It is, well, you have started a single quote, but what's the ending quote? Like multiple single quote. So if we have this type of thing, apostrophe s or some other special character, we need to skip this character. Like, well, whenever we're writing, we need to skip it. How we can escape it? Using the forward slash. So these are the escaping sequences. Whenever we're escaping a backspace, we're adding forward slash b. So if it's a new line, we're adding forward slash n. So for example, if I'm writing Mira forward slash n share, then you'll see here in the terminal, first line is Mira, second line is share. That means you are separating two strings by the new line. If using forward slash t, then there is 4 space apart from those 2 words. That means a tab line. Then again, for the single quote or double quote, you need to use the forward slash single quote, apostrophe s. Then it will not count as the ending sequence of a string. This is the starting sequence or the starting quotation. And since we're adding forward slash apostrophe s, then it doesn't count. It will find another one here. Does that make sense? So let me print something here. Like I would like to print Mira share. You see here, there is a syntactical error. So still it's a syntactical error. So if I would like to escape it, I'll have to use the forward slash. Then I can see the Mira share. If using forward slash n, that means you are creating 2 different lines for those 2 words. The first line is Mira, should be forward slash n. First line is Mira, then there's a space, and then share. If you like to remove the space, you can just write this way so that they will be all aligned, Mira and share. That means you can write all 3 shares in one line using the /n. You don't need to print again and again in 4 lines. You can print all together in 1 line.
Is it better to do that?
No, it's not. Like if it is more than 5, then you'll be overwhelmed. It's better to use line by line, but at least you need to know this. If it is like 2, then you don't need to write 2 lines. Up to 3 is fine, but if it is more than 3, then it is not good. Like it is not manageable. Okay. Same thing for the double quote. If it is a double quote, then the / double quote. So those are called like escape sequences, like /. You're escaping what? Those sequences when you're writing the code. Okay. These are the string operation, but as I told you, we'll be discussing those things in module 4. I'm not going to discuss right now. In module 4, we'll be discussing details about the strings, what are the length, index, and other things. But we'll be discussing string formatting or string interpolation. What is the string interpolation? Maybe you need to print mirror share and the mirror share value as well. What is the value? Mirror share value maybe 159.6. So this is an integer number or integer type. So this is the integer type value, right? But mirror share is a whatever value. String, right? Now, how you can write string and integer all together? So you already have done those things for your assignments, but I'm just giving you some hint here how you can do that. There are 4 different ways. First one is module operator, then dot format operator, then f-string is the more promising, and template class is for the object-oriented type of thing, but we are not discussing template class. Template class in this class. Mostly we'll be discussing the f-string because it is very much popular. So I'm not going to discuss the modulo and format, but you can find those information in the document. If you go to the document here, you can see the string interpolation. First one is formatting with the percentage or modulo, then string dot format, then f-string, then template. You can read it from here, but I'll be discussing only the f-string things. F-string is very much popular and very much easier. That's because we can just only write the parentheses, the curly brace, that's all. So this is the mirror share, and if I would like to use this value, I can just use the parentheses or the curly brace and the value. And make sure you're writing the F here, the F character. That's it. So here's some examples. So here's some examples of module operator. Like if it is a string, we need to use the %s. If it is an integer, we need to use the %d. If it is a float, we need to use the %f. But it's still an old version. But at least you need to know how you can work with those two. So N1 is a hello, L2 is a word. Like those two are string, right? That's why we're writing %s for the first variable, then for the second variable %s, and then modulo sign in the parentheses. I'm writing N1 and N2. It will return hello world and the exclamation sign. For the format, it's a different one. We're just writing empty curly braces, and then in the dot format function, we're like writing. So we need to write the variables. What you need to put here, like N1 here, N2 here. Sometimes we can swap it, but in that case, we need to assign those things. Like, well, here's the B2. What's the B2? B2 is N2. What's the B1? B1 is N1. Just pointing those two values or variables in those two variables.
Let's say world hello.
Yeah, and no, it's yeah, first B2, then B1. Yes, world hello. But for the first one, it is like a default. F-string is easier. I don't need to do anything, just the F, N1 and N2. Just two variables. Now, When we're using F string, it is more flexible as because we can write both the string and the integer all together. For example, I would like to write this. Like this is my what? Expression statement. This first part. An expression, right? And then it will generate a value like -4. What I would like to do is like I would like to write this expression and its results. And then in between results and expression, I need to use an equal sign. Maybe it's a string. How I can write it? So, sorry, I can write this way. So A is 2, then so I have written a parenthesis, then A, then multiplication, then B is 3, then closing the parenthesis, then negative, then C is 10. Then equal sign is because we're adding a string here. So equal means like a string. And then I would like to evaluate that one. Then I have evaluating this one. That means it will return this one. 2 multiplied 3 minus 10 is the expression. And this is the result. You can write those things all together. This is the beauty of using F string. Okay. Any question about the F string? No? Yeah, we need to use the F string for this project, but in more detailed way, like how we can display some decimal point value using the F string, like 159.6 and 159.60 are not the same in terms of project specification, but value-wise they are same. So I expect you to write 159.60, but probably your calculation returns 159.6. You can print it, but I will deduct some point in that case. How you can write 159.6 to 159.60, just like a formatting, right? How we can format those values? Those are like decimal formatting using F string. So this is the way how we can format our decimal values. So this is our decimal value. And then how much you can format? Up to 2 floating point. The dot means like decimal point. How much? 2 floating point. And before dot 2f, you need to use the colon sign. So now if I'm going to write this, what's that? So I'm writing val equal 159.6 and print the val, it will print 159.6, right? Now, if I'm writing f val, then for the val colon up to 2 floating point or maybe 3 floating point, then it will print 159.600. I haven't closed the quotation. That's what I'm expecting from you for this project. But it is 2 decimal point, not 3 decimal points. Even if your value is whatever, I don't need to know. You need to print it up to 2 decimal point. Maybe for the test run, it is okay. You don't need to use the 2f, but for the other values, maybe you need to do this. So whenever you're printing those shares, Mira, top, and crew, make sure you print this way, colon dot 2f, so that it can be displayed up to 2 decimal points. Any question? Okay. And again, if you need to more documentation about this F string, you can just click this link. This is the same link that I have already given to you. Then the bugs. We're not happy with these bugs in this class, right? And we're not expecting this bug in this class. It's a new building. Also not in Python, not in our code. It's a ladybug, sweet bug, but we're not expecting this bug. But sometimes we have some bugs in our code. This type of bug, which are annoying, Because we need to solve those bugs. What is a bug in computer science or programming? Like an error. Sometimes then there are no errors, but there are some potential. What I say is like, for example, I ask you to write an addition operator, and you are doing some subtraction operator. Maybe it is producing the result. There's no error, but it is a bug. It is not a syntactical bug, but a semantical bug. That means I want you to write addition code, but you're writing a subtraction code. It is not producing the right way. It is also a bug. Okay, so bug like that. My bug means like not necessarily it should have an error. Maybe there is no error, but it is a bug. In a sense, you are not producing the right way. Like 159.6 and 159.60 are not the same. So if you're producing 159.6, it's a bug. And what's the right way? 59.60. This is a small bug. Your program is runnable or executable, but still there are some bugs. Okay, so bugs is like, for whimsical reason, programming errors are called bugs, and the process of tracking them down is called debugging. So there is a reason for this bug. Someone claims in 1945, a dead moth caused a problem on relay number 90 panel F of one of the first computer in Harvard, and the term bug has remained in use since. So that's why the bug came. A moth was dead on that computer. It's a huge computer on that time, like a vacuum tube. And since there was the bug things, that's why they come with the bug word. And whenever you are tracking down those bugs, it is called debugging. You are digging, what's the bug? I need to fix it. This is called the debugging. In the computer science, what is the debugging? I need to find out the bug and fix it. Like 159.6, I haven't used the F string up to 2 decimal point, it's a bug. If I write the F string and up to 2 decimal point, that means I have fixed it. So this is called debugging. Debugging is like how you can find the bug. Though there is no error, but if there is an error, for example, like this, I missed the parenthesis. The debugging, the like syntactical error, it shows me like, well, there is an error in this line. It shows like unterminated F string literal. That means there is no terminal literal here. It is expecting a terminal literal. Since I have used the starting literal, it is expecting a terminal literal. It is detected at line number 2. So line number 2 is detected. So this is called like automated checker or automatic checker. It always checks automatically the syntactical error. But if it is not syntactical, like I expect you to write the up to 2 decimal point and you are writing 3 decimal point, still it's a bug. But you cannot see it. It doesn't raise any alarm. It's a bug. I told you to write up to 2 decimal point. You wrote 3 decimal points. That's why it's a bug. It's a programming bug. It's a logical bug. Okay. So that's why there are basically 3, but we can like map it into two different types of errors. One is syntactical error, another is semantical error. What's the syntactical error? Whenever you're not following the grammar, like he go to school, it's not correct, right? Grammatically, it's because whenever you're using third person singular number, it should be either s or es after the verb. So you have written he go to school. Grammatically, it's not right. That means the syntactical error in regular English grammar. In computer science, in Python grammar, the starting literal followed ending literal. If you don't use the ending literal for the F string, there is a grammatical error. It's expecting an ending literal. That's why it's a syntactical error. Syntax wise, it is not correct. The syntax means like it doesn't follow the rule. For example, like Peter know how to write a good code. Grammatically, it's not right. Even though Peter know how to write a good code, but grammatically it's not right. It's because should be Peter knows in English grammar, right? And what is the semantical? Semantical is like, well, if it doesn't make any sense, I ask you to write up to 2 decimal point, but you have written 3 decimal point. It doesn't make sense to me. Even if there is no error, but it doesn't make sense to me. Excuse me. In a grammar or English grammar, if I write those type of things, Peter knows how to write a beef. It's a complete sentence, right? Syntactically, it's correct. Peter knows how to write a beef, but it doesn't make sense to us. That's why the semantical error. Same thing for the programming. Even if your code is running perfectly fine, but if it doesn't make any sense, there is a semantical error. Make sense? There is another type of semantical error, which is called like runtime error. So runtime error is like you have written your code and you're expecting that it will return the right thing, but somehow when you run it, it is not giving you the right thing. For example, you're writing a loop. It should iterate maybe 3 times, but somehow it iterates 4 times, or maybe it doesn't stop. That means in the runtime, it is producing a different thing. So semantical runtime are somewhat similar, but runtime is like typically during the runtime, it raises an error. But in the semantic, it doesn't raise an error. It just runs. Later on, we'll be discussing the recursion. Then you'll see what is exactly the runtime error. The recursion is like, you know, how many times it can work. And probably you would like to run 100 times. And you are writing the code to run this code 100 times. But somehow there is an error on the runtime. That means your computer is not capable of running 100 times. That's why it raises an error. So those are basically called the runtime error. But semantically, you're right. Semantically, you are supposed to write a code that can run 100 times. It's totally fine. Syntactically, you're fine. But in the runtime, your computer doesn't permit it. Sometimes your RAM or some other limitation can happen during the runtime. That's why it's calling the runtime error. Okay, now the exception handling. What is exception? Exception is a signal that a condition has occurred that cannot be easily handled using the normal flow of control in the Python program. What is the flow of control? You already have written the flow chart, right? In the flow chart, you have seen like there is an oval shape start button, and at the end, there is an oval shape end button. In between start and end, there should be input, output. In between input and output, there are the processes, right? Now, think about, I told you to get the crew number, then the unit number, and then give 3 unit to all of the crew except Mira and Toph. And the second instruction is after that, Mira got 13%. Now, if you are calculating 13% at the very first place, and then you are giving 3 units to all crew except Mira and Toph, then the result is not the same, right? The flow of operation is like, well, first you need to give 3 units to all of the crew except Mira and Toph. Then the second step is, what are the remaining? You need to give 13 units to Mira. These are the step-by-step, right? Step-by-step operations. So this is called like flow of operation. So whenever we're writing code in Python, it is running line by line. First line first, second line second, third line third. Even if you know, well, I have calculated these things, like maybe I'm writing a code here. These are my 2 units. I'm just writing 2 variables. A is 10, B is 1000, and then C is 1000 minus A multiplied 3. Then B is like 1000 minus C multiplied 0.13. Okay, so this is my code. Now the first question is, do you understand what I have written? Probably yes, because you know the project. But if you don't know about the project, do you understand anything from here? What is A? What is B? What is C? What is D? I don't know, right? It doesn't make any sense to me. Instead, if I'm writing like here, crew, that make more sense, right? That means there are 10 crew. If I'm writing, that's why I told you, whenever you're writing the variable name, should be meaningful name. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to me. This can be in units. Then these are crew first cut. So this is the units. And this is the crew. Probably I need to write here another parenthesis so that it will count first, then subtract later. Then this is Mira. This is the units minus crew first cut multiply 13. It makes more sense, right? That means first line is we're assigning 10 to crew, 1000 to units. Then we're calculating the crew first cut, and then we're calculating the Mira's share. So now I know how to calculate Mira's share, but if I'm writing the code in this way, just swapping the line number 3 and 4, will that create the same value? It will not, it's because it is executing line by line. The normal flow of operation in Python is like line by line operation. It will start executing for the first line. Well, Q10 assigning that very value to crew, 1000 to units, assigning 1000 to the units, then calculating the Mira, units minus first crew share. Well, what is the crew first share? I don't know what is the value here. If I'm going to run it, it will raise an error. The name error, the name crew first share is not defined. That means I haven't calculated the crew first share here. And then the next line, well, you can ask, so you can tell your computer like, well, you can find the crew first share in this next line. But this is not how the Python works. It works line by line. The normal flow of operation can be done in this way. So whenever you're writing the code, you must follow the steps. If you swap one line, the result can be different. But in some cases, it may not, but I'll show you later. But for this project, it matters. So the normal flow of operation is line by line. So sequential execution, what do you say here? Sequential execution, the normal flow of operation or normal flow of control in Python is the sequential execution. Also with that sequential execution, there are 3 common control flow in the Python. What are those 3 control flows? Conditionals like if. In the next class, I'll be discussing the if and loop, like conditionals and loop. If is like, if I have some condition, only then we will be executing this part. Otherwise, we will not. That means we are bypassing the flow. We are forcing to go in different direction based on some condition. Same thing for the looping. If we have some loop, maybe there are like 6 lines of code, but it can run 100 times. If we have a loop, if we have some condition like, well, you run it 100 times, and then you need to execute the 7th line. That means in a normal way, it cannot run first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth line, and line number 7. That's because since we have written the loop, it will run 100 times, like 606 lines in 100 times, like 600, and then 601 is the 7th line. Even if we have only 7 lines of code, it can be executed on line number 601. So this is the second type of control flow. The third type of control flow is functional. Function is like, also we'll be discussing function in week 4 and 5. The function is like if we have to perform some particular task, for example, like calculating mirror shear, we can create a function. Only when we call that function, like invoke that function, that code will be executed. If we're not invoking, that code will not be executed. So this is the third type of control flow. Whenever we call that function or invoke that function, only that part of code or that block of code will be executed. So the first way is sequential, line by line. Second way is conditional. Based on the condition, it will jump here and there. For the looping, it will iterate several times. The third way is whenever it's a function, if we call it, it calls that function like a subroutine, a routine. Okay, but I'll be discussing those things later, but I'm just giving some hint that there are like 4 control ways that your code can be executed in Python. So all errors in Python are handled using the exceptions. If there is an error, that can be handled through the exceptions. Not all exceptions represent the error. Sometimes there's some exception, but there is no error. I'll be discussing those things later. Well, how you can handle the exception? The try and accept. That means you would like to try something. If it is not working, then go to the accept. Don't stop executing this one. Okay. Now, for example, if I'm writing this code, not sure if it's the right way. Again, the try and accept, it is a block as because we are using a colon. Now, the next line, you can see here, there's a tab. It is not here. There are like 4 spaces, though you can see 2, but there are like 4 spaces. The tab, I am writing print f string. Maybe I'm not in closing the f string. I'm writing hello. Then the accept is another block. I'm writing another print. One tab, then one tab. So I'm trying to do these things. If it is not, then it will print the OK. Okay. It is basically a syntactical error. So the syntactical error cannot be handled by try. So let me use here different things like a equal 10 plus hello. I cannot add a string with a number, right? When I'm trying to do these things, it cannot, then it goes to the except block. That means there is an error, but we have handled it. We're not showing an error. So let me see if I'm not writing the try and accept, what will happen? It will raise an error. So I've handled it through the try and accept. That means try to do it, 10 plus hello. If it is not, then you can raise an error. So what I can do here, instead of the instead of printing OK, I'm printing an error message. I am unable to add numbers with strings. Okay. Now it will raise an error message like, well, I'm unable to add those numbers with the strings. But if you're not using try and accept, probably you have an error. Now, if you are delivering a software to me and I can see this type of error like type error, what it is, I don't know. I don't understand what's a type error. It's because maybe I'm a farmer. I don't know what the type error is. But that makes more sense to me. I am unable to add 2 numbers with string. So this is how we can handle the errors to the except block. So there are 2 blocks. as I told you, indentation here, indentation here. That means we are writing some code under the try block. And then if it is not okay, we can write those things in the except block. So you can write those things in your code, try and accept. Maybe you can write those things like the mirror share calculation under the try block. If you're unable to calculate it, throw an exception like, well, I am unable to calculate the mirror share. Then try to calculate the top share under a try block. That I would like to try, and I would like to calculate top share. If it is not, I'm unable to do that. That make more sense, right? So this is the best way of writing a code to handle the error whenever you are delivering a software to a layman user. The user can be layman, right? They can add 10 and 10 and expecting 30 if it is 1020, what it is. Then you can throw some exception, right? Where you have entered some string value. That's why you are seeing 10 and 20 is 1020. If you enter some integer number, then you can see 30. Right? Maybe you are creating a calculator which can add two numbers, right? But a layman can enter a string like hello. Then your calculator crashes. So you need to handle it. You need to write some comment. You need to raise an error message that, well, my calculator can only accept an integer number or float number, but in your case, you are entering a string number. So you need to redo it. Does that make sense? Now, your first code was like adding two integer number, right? So this is my operand 1 is integer, converting whatever I'm getting in the input to the input. What's the prompt? Here's the prompt. Enter first number, right? Same thing for the second operator. I'm just copy and paste. It is okay if you're copy paste on your code. You don't need to write the same thing again and again. That's why the scientists created the copy paste things. But don't copy from website to your code. Like, don't copy website and paste it to your code. You can copy and paste in between your codes. Okay, now here's the answer of 1 plus of 2, and then you're printing the answer, right? The sum is, maybe you're using the F string. The sum is curly brace answer. The first number is 10, second number is, what's that? First number is 10. Oh, 10. Second number is 20. Is 30. Again, if you run it, first number is -10. Second number is 20 minus 10. Right? Now, if I'm a farmer, for an example, I don't know what does it mean by the first number. I can enter hello. It raises an error. I don't understand what does it mean by the value error. It's because I'm a computer scientist. That means as you are the computer scientist, you need to handle it. How you can handle it? It's a try block. You can write it here, like try. Under the try block, I'm using the indentation. If it is not possible, then I'm printing an error message that enter a numeric number. Same thing for the second one. Try this. Then if it is not possible, then accept this. Now, if I'm, what's the double accept? Now, if I'm writing hello here, it raises an error message. That makes more sense to me. right? Even if it is not complete, that's because right now the first number is empty, then it will raise an error from here. But I think it will not, is because the two strings, it will concatenate those two strings. Sum is 10. I don't know how it get 10, but whatever, it's not correct. But at least that make more sense to a layman user, right? That's why we're using try and except. Now, there are various ways to handle those errors. In the exception block, that's the code I have already written, try and except. Whenever you are writing some try block, try to execute a block. If no errors, continue normally. If there is a runtime error, then there is an exception. So that is actually the runtime things. It is not causing any error during the execution, not the execution. This is during the interpreted time, the compiler time, it will raise an error to the runtime. So here's the syntax. You need to write the try clause and except. If you'd like to handle a specific type of error, you can write that specific type of error after the except. Except space the type. What is the type? A name type or value type, right? So if you need to handle, so for example, your code. So in the code you're writing like your number can only be string, but it is not the value type. It can be a name type error. So you can handle those two types differently. For the name type, you are printing this message. For the value type, you're like displaying this message. So what is the value type and name type? You can read those things from here. I already have given a list of types. The standard type. So what's the name type? Raised when a variable or identifier cannot be found. What is the value type? The value type here. Did I miss it? Value type. Raise a function, receive argument of the correct type, but invalid value. What's the index type? So there are like different types of error. But for this class, I think those errors are fine. Syntactical error, like this is syntax error. Type error. You need to know what is the type error, value error, name error. Key error and index error can be used in the list or dictionary data structure. Divide by 0. It can be used whenever you are dividing something by 0. For example, 2 divided by 0 is like infinite, right? We cannot handle it. So that can be handled through the divide by 0. File not found. If you are accessing some file, but it is not there, then it will raise an error. You can handle those things through the file not error things. Okay, I think we're done here. But if you need to know more about those things, you need to read those things. These are the different types of errors. Okay. Okay, finally I've finished it within the time period. And keep in mind, you need to submit the project by the end of Friday.